children, welcome back to online class grade 11 English. Happy to meet you all through this video. Let us move on to the class. The previous class I taught you the prose one, the portrait of a lady written by Khushwant Singh. First three paragraph is completed. So in this class we will move on to the other paragraph, right? So what do you know about this lesson? The portrait of a lady. Portrait who it represents? About the Khushwant Singh's grandmother, right? So now he is explaining about his grandmother's appearance, grandfather appearance, how it looks in the portrait, and how kind enough she was. The dress she wore, everything it shows the peacefulness in her face, right? And they had a good life in the village where their parents went to the city for their earnings, right? So this time how the grandmother is treating him well, to make him to wake up, everything she is doing and making a very close relationship with the Khushwant Singh. Okay, now take your textbook, page number 2, fourth paragraph we will move on, right? Okay, be ready to listen. The paragraph starts with, my grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapati we threw to them. The explanation is, the grandmother and the author, that is Khushwant Singh, both they'll be going to the school together. What is the reason is, the grandmother wanted to go to the school, that is the temple is attached with the school. So when Khushwant Singh is learning the alphabet and prayer in the school, she will be reading the scriptures in the temple. So who will be teaching these prayers and alphabet is the temple priest only will be teaching all those things, right? In the olden days, the priest only will be teaching all the alphabets and morning prayers. So the children, everybody used to sit there and they will be learning all these things. So where they are sitting is, they will be sitting in the veranda. There is a long pathway, there they will be sitting in 2 rows and they will be learning the alphabet. So sometimes they will be learning the alphabet with the singing method, right? Or in the prayer they will be telling all together in a chorus way they will be telling. So they will be learning it easily. So when they are learning all these things, the grandmother used to sit in the temple and she will be reading the scriptures. So when this both is getting over, the grandmother's reading scripture is getting over and the author's lessons is getting over that day, they both used to join together and they will be coming back to their home by walk, right? So when they are coming through this street, the village dogs also will accompany with them. What is the reason? To get some foods from the grandmother. So the grandmother always loves the animals also. So what she will do? She will be feeding some chapatis, that is a stale chapatis they will be having their hands. So that one she will be giving for the dogs. So these dogs also will follow till they are reaching to their home also, right? Okay, the next paragraph is, when my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. The explanation. Now their parents, as they are in the city, they gave information for the village, that is the grandmother and the author is there in the village, they call them back to the city. So now there is a great changes in their life, that is a turning point in their friendship, because when they came to move to the city, there will be a lot of changes. So that friendship is coming to an end. Okay, so what they have done, they have even though they are sharing their rooms in the same place, the grandmother could not able to accompany with him to the school, because there is a lot of changes in the city. There is not like a village. The grandmother can come to the school like as it is in the temple. She also can come and read in the scriptures everything in the village, no, like that it is not there. Totally changes. He is learning in a English medium school, so the school bus will be coming and picking him. So this is the way they will be going to the school. So what cannot do, the grandmother cannot accompany with him to the school. So now in the streets also there is no dogs, and so what the grandmother started to do now, she started to feed the sparrows, and she was there in the house, no, that courtyard means where they can be relaxed in open space, right? That is called courtyard. So there she used to sit and she used to feed the sparrows there, right? Okay, we'll move on to the next paragraph. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. For some time, she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day, I announced that we were being given music lessons. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. This paragraph says about now the years is rolled by in the city life, right? So now they could not talk much, or they could not see each other more time, but sometimes she used to wake up him as the usual way, right? In the morning she used to wake up him for getting him to ready to the school, everything she used to do. And she used to ask about the school, what is happening in the school, what are the things they are teaching in the schools, everything she used to ask to the boy, that is Kushwant Singh. She used to ask. So what he will say means, he will say about the schools they will be teaching about some English words, some Western science, and the law of gravity, Archimedes principle, and why the reason now for the world being round, etc. These all the things they are teaching, like that he will be explaining, but she cannot understand much. She was very unhappy because of this all the things, and she is not able to understand with the what they are doing. So what she could not help also for the lessons. Otherwise the simple lessons means she will be able to explain something in a very good manner, but now she could not help him in her lessons. So she did not believe that this teaching will be helping him for the education, that is a moral education. It is not much helpful. So she was very much distressed about the teaching in the school, and she wanted to know more about the God and the scriptures. This is what she is expecting for the boy to learn. So that is not much gathered in the city school. And the author told about his own music lessons were also is taught in the school, but she is showing her disapproval by keeping very silent. She is not telling in or arguing that. She is keeping very silent and showing the disapproval. And now they rarely only they will be talking with each other. They don't have much to talk because everything is changed. So in the city life they cannot share much each other because the grandmother doesn't know what is happening in the school, right? So there was a rarely talk to each other. Okay, the next paragraph is, when I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirruping. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half an hour of the day for her. So now the explanation. When he started to go for the university, it is a higher education. He was given a separate room for his own. So the common link of the friendship was cut off. Now that it is totally, they cannot speak much. But the grandmother, what she accepted her loneliness, and she rarely spoke to anyone. So she doesn't wanted to talk and spend the time. She accepted that she is alone, and she was happy with what she had. And she sat and spinning the wheel and reciting her prayers. That is the work she was doing for the whole day. And for some time for the relaxation in the afternoon, what she used to do, she used to go and feed the sparrows. And when she's feeding the sparrows, what she will do, she'll be breaking the breads in a little bits, and she'll be sitting in the veranda. So the hundreds of little birds will come around around her, and it will be coming and picking up the breads, and it will be making a noisy, that is you know how the birds will be making now sounds, right? Like a chirruping sounds, right? Noisy confusion sounds it will be making. So like that the birds will be coming around her, and it will be coming and sitting on her, even on her head, and on the legs, like that it will be coming and sitting on the shoulders also. But if some birds is coming and sitting on our head, what we will do, we will chase that with our hands, that is shoot out, right? So when we are doing like that, but the grandmother, what she will be doing, she patiently, she will be accepting that also. She will never allow them to go away from her. She will be accepting that very happily, and this will be the happiest half an hour for her, the whole day, right? So she'll be enjoying that feeding the sparrows. Next paragraph. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. This paragraph says about the author is planning to go for the abroad for the higher studies, right? So when he is going for the higher studies, he is thinking that the grandmother would be upset at his departure, like that he is thinking. But what it is happening, she is not showing that loneliness, right? He would be away for 5 years, and he thought that 5 years is more time for the grandmother, for more years for the grandmother to survive, right? So as she is very old, when he's coming back, she will be much older, and whether she will be alive or not, like that he is having a doubt. And now he is going for the abroad for the higher studies, and she also came to the railway station to send him off, but did not talk or show any emotions. So when we was sending somebody to abroad, what we will do, we will be crying, we will be missing them much. But the grandmother doesn't wanted to show any emotion to her, to the author. She was not even sentimental, and she was doing one thing. What is that? She was continuously telling about the prayers, and her fingers were busy in counting the beads of her rosary, and she was telling the prayers. And now only the affection she is showing by silently she is kissing in his forehead. So the moist imprint, that is the you can feel the presence of the affection of the grandmother through the kiss. So he thought that it was the last sign of the physical contact between them, right? So he is thinking whether he can come back and meet her, like that he is thinking of that, and he is moving that. Okay, so next paragraph. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with the frivolous rebukes. Now, after 5 years, he came back home from after learning the higher education. He came back at the stations. The grandmother came for welcoming him, and it seems that she did not grow old at the same age she looks, right? So, already she was looking very old. Now, also it looks like the same older than that, right? And she did not utter any words there, and she clasped him and in her arms and immersed in reciting her prayers. That what she was telling the prayers, no, that he could hear, like that she was telling that prayers only that she was doing. And usually when somebody is coming from abroad, we will be enjoying that day, right? That day will be the happiest moment for us. And now the grandmother and the grandson was very affectionate. After 5 years he's coming, surely she should be much enjoyed that day, but she did not spend that day also with the grandson. What she was doing, she was as usual, the feeding the sparrows is the happiest moment for her, no? That routine work only she is doing that day also when the grandson is coming from abroad, right? Next paragraph. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. For several hours, she thumbed the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstaining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. The explanation is that the evening that when the boy came from the abroad that day, there was a change in her character, and that day she did not pray. She called all the women from the neighborhood, and what she done, she started to play the old drum and she started to sing. So she thumped the drum for several hours and sang songs related to the homecoming of the warriors. Homecoming of the warriors means that soldiers, olden days, they will be going for the war. That time, the people who is at the home, they will be singing for they have to return back in a good manner, like that. They will be singing the songs that will be called as a homecoming of warriors, like that. So now she started to sing related to that songs, everything. Somebody has to stop her singing that in order to avoid her overstaining. And now the author felt that she did not pray for the first time since he had known her. So before that, always she'll be praying to God, right? That is a murmuring or reciting prayers will be there. But now this is the first time the author could see that the grandmother did not pray that day, right? Okay, the next paragraph. The next morning, she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. This paragraph says that the grandmother felt till the next day morning and that it was a mild fever she was having, and the doctor told that it would be all right. But she told to the others everyone that this is her end. So that is the end is near, like that she felt. And she told that because of that only she has omitted to pray during the last few hours, and that is a lost chapter of her life, she said, and she was not going to waste any more time talking to anybody, right? Now we are also end of the last two paragraph, right? And we protect her, but she ignored our protest. She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead. So now this paragraph, now the relatives, everybody, they are trying to protest her decision that she told, no, that is my last chapter of her life came and she is going to die. This all the things when she is telling the relatives, everybody, they are trying to protest, but she is not accepting the protest. Only she know that what is true, so she is not ready to accept the protest, and she lay very peacefully in the bed and praying and counting the beads. Soon her lips stopped moving and her rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. And now her face became very pale in color, and her relatives, everyone know that she was dead, right? And the last paragraph. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red straw. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in her red shirt. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirruping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So, in the final, the family went to make some arrangements for the grandmother's funeral. So, in the evening, they went to her room with a stretcher to take her off to be cremated. Cremated means to bury, right? So, the sunset had lit her room with a golden light. So, when they are taking this grandmother's body on the way to the courtyard, they stopped. And nearly thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor all over the veranda and her room. The birds came down, but there was no sound of chirruping. Even a single bird did not make any sounds. So the sparrows mourned the death of his grandmother in utter silence, and they ignored the breadcrumbs which was thrown by the mother. So usually, how the grandmother used to put the breadcrumbs for the birds, the same way the mother is doing, but the birds did not wanted to have the bread. It is not doesn't wanted to eat the bread, and they flew away silently when the body was carried for cremations, right? And next morning only they found that the sweeper wanted to swept away all the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. So even the birds was very affectionate towards the grandmother. She was very lovely, not only with the writer Kushwant Singh. She was very affectionate with the birds and animals also. So this was the peaceful death for her, right? So the author also was very affectionate with her grandmother. Hope you are all clear about the lesson, the portrait of a lady, the affection between the author and the grandmother, right? Okay, we'll see in the next class. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.